Hey everyone, this is Sandeep back with another video. And today I'm going to create a project called Code Generator using JavaScript. So we're going to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build this project. So you're going to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript while creating this project. So this is going to be really interesting because you're going to enhance all these three skills, right? And this will be completely hands-on, and it will help you, to actually understand JavaScript through projects. So let's jump into the project and I'll show you how this project is going to look like. Okay, so this is our project. This is what we are going to build in this video. Looking small, but it's a really interesting project. That's why I wanted to create it. So there will be this is more of a code generator. So if you see here, this is a quote: winners never quit and quitters never win. And that's a really great quote by the author, Vinci Lombardi, maybe if I'm pronouncing the name right. So we're going to show the quotes, right? So there are a couple of buttons which I have created here. And so the new code button is going to generate a new code. So if you click on a new code, it's going to show you the new code every time you click on that button. And this button is going to play the role of a slide show kind of thing, where we show the images, right? So similarly, if I click on this button, it's going to wait for some time, and then it's going to generate the code after every 3 seconds. So you don't need to click on the new code button, and you will be able to see the codes one by one appearing. After a certain amount of time, we can configure that time also. So now in between, say suppose I click on new code, it's going to stop the timer, and it's going to show you the new code. So if you see the beautiful UI I have created, all this background and everything we are going to build, and we're going to load this data from some third-party services, and I'm going to show you how to load the data from your local system also, local machine also, because sometimes this third-party APIs doesn't work. So maybe if you're watching this video maybe after a year, right? Not today. So there is a possibility that API is not working. So you should have an option where you're going to have the codes locally in your machine, and you should be able to load those codes. The integration will be the same. So this is going to be a really interesting project. So let's jump into the coding part, and we'll start with the HTML structure first. Okay, so this is what I'm going to share it with you. So I have already created a template folder. This is I'm going to share with you on the GitHub. So you can just download this template, and you can start building your project, because I'm going to provide you the completed code also, but at the same time, you need something to start from the scratch. And I highly encourage, everyone who is watching this video, you should code along with me. And again, you try to create this project by yourself also. That's how you're going to learn it. And if you just watch these videos, I'm sure, I'm pretty sure it's not going to help you. So it's always good, just do some hands-on, do some coding. I really like coding, that's why I create all of this live coding videos. I'm coding live directly. I'm not going to edit a lot of part of this video. So I really like to create such kind of content so that, you can also learn and you can also start coding along with me. So we'll just do one thing, just take this template, and I'm just going to create a copy of it. And I'm going to rename it to Code Generator. Okay, so spelling is right, Code Generator, right? So now I'm going to open this inside my so if you see here, right, let's go through the structure also. So I have the index.html, or maybe first of all I'm going to open it inside my Visual Studio Code. So let's do this. I'm going to click on open folder, then I'll go into my structure where I keep all of my code. So this is inside projects, JavaScript, and I'm going to open this code generator. You can start with the template, right? And now if you see here, right, so I got 4 different files actually. First one, I would like to talk about the index.html file. So this is the HTML file, and you see something already written inside this file, because I don't want to get into going and copying and pasting all those things. So what I'm using basically, so the important part which I want to explain, this first one is related to the icon. So I've just created one fav icon, just to show some kind of icon in the browser tab. So that is related to this. This tag is related to that. And then I have included some of the fonts from the Google Fonts API. Or a website, I would say. So you can search for the Google. So just to make our application look beautiful, I'm just using the Google fonts. So you can search for Google fonts, go to Google fonts. If you don't like the fonts which I'm using, right, probably you can go and select some other font. So just click on the fonts. The site keeps changing, whatever I'm showing you right now, maybe it is not the same for you when you're watching this video. So you can go through all these fonts, and if you like any font, just need to select that font, and then probably you can click on the plus icon. You can select something like this, select this one or this one or this one, and it's going to generate the structure for you, which I have copied and pasted here, this one. So you just need to copy and paste that. The next thing is I'm going to use the Font Awesome library just for the icons. Okay, so you can search for the Font Awesome, something like this on the Google. Fonts Awesome. And you can search for the Font Awesome CDN actually. So that will give you the link for all the CDNs related to Font Awesome. And you can just copy this and you can paste it there. And if you want to learn more about Font Awesome, probably you can visit the Font Awesome site also. It got so many great icons, ready-made icons, which we can start for free, right? And they have a lot of icons. If you see here, getting started, or maybe I can go into the icons here, and you see here, right? They have so many icons. You can search for the home icon, click, and they will probably bring the home icons for you. See that. But you can use only free icons. There are some commercial icons also. You need to take the commercial version. Probably you need to do some filtering. That filter, okay, so you need to click on free basically. So all of these icons are free, and we're going to use the free version only. We are not going to use the paid version. So paid version has a lot of icons. Okay, our intention is not to learn Font Awesome, not to learn about Google Fonts, right? But I wanted to give you a quick introduction around it. So I have included Font Awesome just for using some of the beautiful fonts. Like if you see these fonts, right? This is a font which I'm using from the Font Awesome site. This button has a font, right? So that is coming from Font Awesome. Okay. Next, I have included the another styles.css. This is the CSS which we are going to write for this project. So this is our own CSS. And finally, the title, I have given code generator as a title. If you're working on some other project, right? So you can use that particular title that related to that particular project. And finally, I have included the JavaScript file also. The index.js file, which is right now empty. There's nothing inside it. Even inside my styles.css, if you see, I have some basic styling. Probably I need to change it a little bit, but let's keep it like this only. So what I did for the HTML part, I'm using font size as 62.5. So by default, the browsers have a font size of 16 pixel. And I'm going to use rem units for all my font size, right? So this 62.5% means 10 pixel. So 1 rem is equals to 10 pixels, something like that. So I can say 2 rem and it will be 20 pixel, 3 rem will be 30 pixel, 2.5 will be 25 pixel, something like that. And I'm using the box sizing of border box. This is one of the CSS thing where, I want the exact size of the box, right? So it should include the margin, padding, border, and everything inside that content box, that particular box only. Okay, so this is about border box. Then inside body, I've just did some reset. We can use star also here just to do the reset, so that all the elements, they're going to have the margin and padding off. And even I can move this box sizing from here to here. I think that would be good. Cool. So we have our index.html. I'll bring it here, then index.js where we are going to write JavaScript, and then styles.css. So let's start writing some of the HTML first, right? So I can refer the structure, right? What we want to build this box, right? In the center of the application. But first of all, we need to have this beautiful background, right? And for that background, we are going to refer a site called SVG backgrounds. Okay, so you go to this site. There's many other sites also available. You can search for the SVG background, and there are other options also. If I remember, there's one more option called Hero Patterns. This is also a good website, and maybe in other video, I'll give you the example of Hero Patterns also. But for this particular project, I'm going to use SVG backgrounds. And okay, so I think I can just go and see. So there are a lot of backgrounds available, right? Some of the free ones, some of the paid ones. So I have used this one, right? But you can use anything whichever you like, right? Probably you won't be able to use the commercial one. Maybe you can use this whichever you like. I'm going to use this one. So okay, so this one I'm going to click. Now you have different options here, right? So you can click on export, and now either I can have inline SVG, Illustrator, SVG, PNG, but I'm going to show you a really simple option called CSS. So just select CSS, click on the CSS. Now it is copied. So it has copied the entire CSS which will be needed to generate that particular background. Now I'll go back to my HTML, right? Okay, I think this is part of the CSS. So first of all, we are generating the background, right? So inside my body tag, I'm just going to put that background, and then we will start working on the actual structure. So you just copy and paste. That's it. So it has generated the entire background for you. If you save, and now if I run this, let's open this in live server. So where's the option of live server? Okay. Let's see what happens, if it works. See that the background has been generated for you, and this is that fav icon which I was talking about, right? So the application is running. This is another application. This is already completed application. So we have a nice background. Now let's start building the HTML structure around it. So we need to create first of all this box, right? So what I'm going to do, basically, I'll just add a section. We'll start with the section. So let's start with the section, and this section I'm going to give it a class name. So I'm using the emit syntax here, and this will be our code container, right? So let's give it a class name of code container, and this is going to generate that section for us. Now inside this section, let's do some separation. We have the already built in completed application. We can take the reference. So this is code. This is our code container. Inside that we have this as a one section, right? Or maybe this is a first section which is related to the quote text. This is another section which is related to the author. So you can do this breakdown while writing your HTML. And even now this is a small project, but you can apply the similar idea for the bigger project also, because bigger projects are also created out of this idea of small components, right? So let's break down this bigger component into smaller components. So, or smaller molecules, I would say. So this is our first section. This will be our second section, and this will be our third section. Inside that we are going to have different buttons, right? So for this, I'm going to use divs. So inside my section, I'm going to put some div. So the first div will be related to our quote text, right? So this will be our quote text. Inside that, I'm going to have this text, but with the icons. All right. So for the icon, I will use font awesome, and I have the free selected here. We will search for left quote, and let's see what we get. Okay, we got the quote left, right? So you can click on that and just need to copy this. Copy this and you paste it here. You got your left quote, right? And then we need to have our text, right? So for the text, I'm going to use span tag, and inside our quote text, I'm going to give it a class name of code. So this is our real code. And for the time being, I'm just going to copy this code from here. Maybe we'll generate a new code and smaller one. Let's copy this one and go back to my HTML, paste it here. Okay, now we need that right quote icon, right? And I can take the reference from this one only because it will be similar to this. Only thing is I need to change this to right because other things are going to be similar, right? So this is our first section, the code text section. Let's create the another section which will be for author, right? So I'll call it author text maybe, or we can call it anything actually, but let's call it author only. So first section is, so let's name it something like this. Okay, this is for the code, right? And this is actually our code text. So it's more meaningful, right? This is code container. Inside that code container, we have a code, then we have a code text, right? This will be our author section. And inside our author section, if you see here, right, what we have the author name. So for that, again, I'm going to use span, and let's call this author text. Okay. And maybe I'll just take this author name from here and paste it here. Okay, looks good. So we have the code, we have the author. Now the next thing which I need to create is another section for the buttons, right? So I'm going to call it button container. Okay, and inside that button container, we are going to put two different buttons. The first one will be first button. I think this pop-up, I need to remove. Let me remove it. Okay, so the first button will be for the slideshow. So I'm just going to give it a class name of slideshow, and I'm not going to give it any text here, any title here for the button. And let's give it a title. I mean, this is different title. So we'll just name it play slideshow, something like that. And inside this, I'm going to use an icon. So again, I'll go back to font awesome. Okay, here. I'll search for the play button, right? So this is the button I'm going to use. So let's copy this from here and paste it here. Okay, we got a button. Another button I need will be my new code button, right? So I'll give it a class name of new code btn. I should use btn here also, slideshow button, right? So that way it will be more meaningful. So this button, definitely I'm going to have a text. So I'll just give it a name of new code, and let's give it a title of new code. Oh, sorry, new code. Okay, just for the readability, I'll put it on new lines. Now I'm going to save. I think we are ready with the HTML structure, right? And if I go back to my application now, you see that? It's coming here on the top left hand side. We need to write a lot of CSS actually, but this is coming here. If you see here, if I open it, right, it's coming here. So I think we are ready with the HTML structure. I hope you understood, right? I have used section. I'm trying to be more semantic here. I'm using the proper class names also. That's how you should write your code, This is more of an industry standard code, I would say. Proper sectioning your HTML parts, something like this. And this is more readable also, right? You can also comment this code if you want, but I think you don't need to comment because this is very, very, very much readable for any other developer also, right? Okay, you got a container, then inside that you have a division for the code, then the author, and then the button or buttons, right? So I think we are good with the HTML structure. I would suggest to have a quick pause here, have a break, take a walk, come back, and then we will start working on the CSS and we'll make it really beautiful. Welcome back. So let's continue. And in this part of the video, we are going to write the CSS. So I have my HTML structure ready. So let's start with the code container, right? So I'm going to just copy this and I'll go back here, go to my styles.css basically, and let's start with our container. Okay. So before that, maybe I'll do something. I'll give. So if you go back, right? Maybe I need to just delete this one. So this is not coming at the center, right? That's coming on the left hand side. This is the default behavior where, you know, all our elements are going on the top left. So now I need to bring it at the center, right? So for that, we're going to use display flex. So if I give it as a display flex, all of my elements are now flex elements. So my entire code container has now become the flex item. So there is a property called align items. So we're going to use that. Align items, align your items in the vertical direction. So vertically, either on the top, center, or bottom. So I'm going to align it at the center. Okay. So if you see here, it is getting aligned, not getting aligned at the center, but I'll show you why. There is another option called justify content, which align your item. This is vertically, right? So this is horizontal. So horizontally on the left hand side, center, or on the right hand side. This is a little bit confusing, you know, sometimes even I forget, but this is the idea, right? So now if I say justify content, I told you, right, it is on the horizontal direction. So now my code content is going to come at the center, and that should prove like whatever I'm saying. You see that it is at the center, but vertically, as I said, you know, align items, it is not coming at the center because my container, my body is like not having the fixed height. So for that, you know, I'm going to give my body minimum height of 100 VH. Now VH is another unit in CSS. So think like, you know, the entire viewport. So this is your viewport, right? So your entire viewport is divided into sections, something like this. So if I say 100 means 100 sections. Okay. So I'm telling my body element, okay, you take the entire viewport, whatever is available to you. So whenever I'm opening the application in the browser, whatever space is available to you, just take the entire space. If I would have set 50 VH, it would have taken only 50% of it. Let me show it to you. Now see that it has came at the center because the height was not 100%. Now if I change it to 50 VH, what's going to happen, you know? It's going to come up. Now my body, I'm in the HTML body, right? This document body is taking only 50% of the viewport height. So that's why, you know, it is coming here at the center. So we need to go with 100. So let's go with that. Now it is at the center. Okay, so let's start with the code container. So probably I'll give some kind of, you know, width. So let's start with width of auto first. Some automatic width I'm going to give to my code container, and then I'm going to give it a max width because I don't want my code container to take the entire space. The maximum available width. So for the big screen sizes like television, or obviously you're not going to see this application on television, but still, like if there is like 2000 pixels screen size monitor you have, I don't want my code container to stretch like on the entire monitor, right? I want to have some fixed width. So I'll go with 90 rem here. 90 rem means 900 pixel because that's what I did here, right? Font size 62.5. That means 10. Okay. So this is how I need to comment, right? 10 pixel. This is the idea, right? And 10 pixel is equals to 1 rem. 1 rem equals to 10 pixel, I can say. So max width, I can give 90 rem. Then I'll give it some padding. Maybe I'll go with some padding of 2 rem on the top bottom and 3 rem on the left right. And let's give it some border radius also. I'll go with 1 rem. Let's see how it looks on the 1 rem. And now I'm going to give it some kind of box shadow, which is going to give it, you know, such a beautiful look. If you see here, right, that beautiful look coming because of the box shadow. You don't need to write anything by yourself, you know, always take help of Google. This is how we write code in the industry. And this is how you should learn to write code. So let's see how you can generate CSS box shadow just for the CSS. Search for the CSS box shadow generator. If you can remember the syntax, I don't have any issue, but I don't keep track of, all the syntax or keep learning all the syntax. I always take help from the Google. So this is a CSS box shadow generator, right? I don't need any shadow on the right hand side, so I'm going to make it 0. I just need the shadow on the vertical direction. So I'll keep it 10 pixel. Maybe I'll blur it a little bit, something like this. And spread radius, maybe I'll reduce a little bit. Let's go with this. You can keep any number, right? That's not a problem. I think this is looking good to me. Maybe opacity is also good. Okay, I think I'm liking it. So you just need to copy this. So you can copy the entire CSS which has been generated by this CSS box shadow generator. And this is the first two lines are for the older browser. If you're using old versions of Internet Explorer, if you're still using, and but for the latest browser, you just need to copy this part. I'm going to go with that only, but you can copy and paste the entire thing also. So this is what I'm going to paste. Now let's save and go back and see like how it is looking. So you should keep visiting, right? So this is looking good, right? So we have the box shadow. We have some transparency also, through which it's like, looking, but I'll give it some background color. Maybe that will look good. So let's go with the background color of, I'll just select any color from here. Maybe let's go with the black color. And maybe I can change it. So, okay. So I'll make it little bit gray, something like this. Just select it something like this, maybe this much gray. Okay. And then I need to make it transparent also. So maybe I'll go with 0.75 transparency. So that way it is going to merge with the background. See that? But I think this is not looking good. I'll go with the white color. Okay, white background and then some transparency. Okay, so I think this is looking good. Very much close to this one. Now let's work on the, okay, I think the padding is looking good. Box shadow is looking good. Now let's start working on our text, right? So we'll start with the this one first, our icons. So I'll go back and I'll go back to my HTML. Let's start with quote, right? So inside quote, we have the icons also. So I'll target the quote. And inside that, I have the icon class, right? Let's give it a font size of 4 rem. Let's try this. And we will keep visiting, right? Okay, this is looking good. But I don't like this color, or maybe we'll go with the black color for now. Now let's change the font size of this because this is obviously not matching. And one thing I forgot, right? We need to change the font also. So let's do that. So I'll use a font family of, so the font which I have included here from the Google Fonts is called Lato. So you can find the name here. This is Lato, right? So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here, Lato. And we'll have the fallback font also. Maybe like sometimes, it doesn't work. Maybe it doesn't get loaded. So in that case, we're going to have sans serif as our fallback font. See that? Now it is looking much better. Now, okay, so let's go back to our HTML structure. I'm going to target this span with a quote text class, right? So let's use that. And I'm going to give it a font size of, let's try with 3 rem first. Okay, this is looking good. And I'm just going to change its color a little bit. I don't like complete black color. I'm going to select the black color, but I'm going to change it to little bit of, gray, something like this. And this looks really beautiful, see, if you go with, but this is more of a very lighter gray. Let's make it a little more dark. And I think this looks much better if you compare with the black colors. This is more of an experiment, right? Let's go with this one. Okay, this is looking good. Our font, our icons. Now let's target our next element, that is our author text, right? So I think this is looking good to me at least. Let's target the author element and maybe we can do the refinement later on also. So author text. Okay, first I'm going to use the same color for now. Font size, maybe I'll go with 2.5 rem. Let's see how it looks. And this color, I'm just going to make it more gray. Just to differentiate, and I don't want it like very much highlighted, a little subtle color. Okay, so this is looking good. And font size, somehow I don't like it. Maybe let's go here 3.5 and let's keep this 2.5. Okay. 2.5 is also like, let's go with 1.5. Okay, so this is better. Now I need to bring everything in the center, right? So maybe I'll go in my body only, right? And I'm just going to give text align of center for my body only. So it will bring everything in the center, right? Text and everything. Okay, so this is looking better. Now I need to have some spacing here. And it's a good idea, to start using the variables. So CSS has variables. So for all the spacing and all those things, I'm going to use variable. I'll show you the example also. So I just need to bring it down a little bit. Then these buttons also, I need to bring it down a little bit. So I'll create the variables for that. So we create the variable based on the scope. So I'm going to create some variables inside my root scope. So this I'm going to name as vertical space. I need to refer actually probably I'll use v space, right? That would be good. And I'll go with 1.5 rem. Probably this looks good. So I'll go with that. Now I can use this variable everywhere. Okay, so I need to have some spacing, right? Where I'm going to have, so I'm going to target my author element. This is my author text, right? So I'm going to target my author element. And let's add a margin top of. So if you want to use a variable, you call this function var and use the v space here. So that will bring some spacing, right? See that? So this is looking much better. Now I want to add that dash, that hyphen, and for that I'm going to show you a trick. And before that, I think author text I'm going to make italic also. So let's do that. Font, style, italic. Okay, this is looking much better. Now I'm going to use my author text and I'm going to use the pseudo elements. So author text before, this is how we, so if you want to insert anything, before your content or after your content, or before your text or after your text, you can use this before and after trick. So content, and the content I'm going to give is r hyphen. So what it is going to do, Control S, I did something wrong here. This is content, not. See that? We got that small a small hyphen, right? I'll give it a font size also. Okay, and I'll change its font style to normal. I don't want it to be italic. Okay, so this is looking much better. So our author text is looking good. Let's focus on the buttons now. So I'll target my button container first, just put some spacing, right? So button container, let's copy this margin top from here and paste it here. So that way we're going to have that space. Now I'm going to make my button container a flex container. The reason is, I want to align those buttons on the left and right? So having a display flex is a good idea. And I'm going to say justify content, and that will be space between. So that way, those two buttons are going to go on the left and right. See that? So flex is really awesome thing, in CSS. Just need to do some changes, and it does a good job of doing the alignment or for the layout of your elements. Okay, so let's focus on this button now. So I'll make it, let's target this button. So let's target the button elements one by one. First of all, I'm going to target, we have only button, right? Two buttons. So let's target the button element, and let's give it a font size. Maybe what font size will look good for the button? That's what I wanted to check actually. So let's go with 2rem. Okay. Now we need to have some padding also, right? That way the button will look good. Padding, I'll have a padding of maybe 1rem on the top and bottom, and let's make it double the left and right. Okay, so this is looking good. I need to change the border also. So border, I'll go with 2 pixel probably, or let's go with 1 pixel. 1 pixel solid. And the button which I'm trying to create, I just wanted to show you what button I'm trying to create. So I'm just trying to create buttons like this. These buttons, if you show you on the Font Awesome site, this kind of button, right? I'm taking the inspiration from these guys, and something like this. So I wanted to have this color, right? So this color we can grab from their site. So just click or right click, inspect element, and you can get that color of the button. So if I scroll down a bit, should get that color. So this is that color, right? So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here. So that way I'm going to get that border. Let's give it a border radius of 1rem. Probably that will look good, right? Now if I go back, I'm going to close this. See that? We have that border looking good. And now I'm going to change the background color also. So let's change the background color to some kind of blue color only. So there is a color for that. This one I'll use. Okay, this is looking good. If you want to change the color of these buttons, I think I didn't change any color. But now I want to add this drop shadow, right? So, and even we can change the color also, right? The button color. So I'll make it blue, that color which I have copied, right? So that will look good. Okay, somehow I lost the icon because of this color. No, it's coming. Okay, so we have the buttons, right? With the border. Now I want to generate the box shadow. So let's go with the box shadow. I'll keep the same thing, but I just need to remove this blur radius, okay? And even the spread, probably I just bring it down. Okay, let's copy this. And I'll just change the color to this color. RGBA. So this color, I can't directly change it here. I need to have those values, right? So I'm going to grab those values from Font Awesome site. So inspect and click on this color. You'll get the values from here. So just change this, to RGBA. So 24, 49, 83. 24, 49, 83. Okay. So now if I save and go back, I'll just close this. See that? But this is more of, going down. So, and even I don't want this much transparency. Let's go with 90. Okay, this is looking much better. that spacing is coming from here, right? 10 pixels. So I'll go with maybe 0.3 rem. Let's try this. Okay, maybe I'll go with 4. This is all about experiment. So I think this is looking good. It's a nice button. Let's give it a cursor pointer also. So that way you will be able to see the hand cursor on the buttons. So now when I click on the button, I need to have that effect, right? Like a click effect. So for that, I'm going to use and for the hover also, right? Let's use some hover also on the button just to show user that there's something happening on the button. For that, I'm going to use a filter. So I'll use my filter. And which filter I'm going to use? Let's try with sepia. Let's see what happens if I use sepia. See that? Just adding some filter, I mean, this is looking okay to me. You can experiment with other filters also, but this is okay. Now in the next state which I'm going to do is button and active. So when the button will be active, I'm going to change this box shadow. Let's make it none. And this should do the job. Let's see that. See that? We are removing the box shadow. Or maybe I'll not remove the box shadow, or let's keep it. I'll add it later on. I just want to translate, somehow that button should go down. That's what I want to do. So I'll use transform and then the translate function. I don't want to translate in the X direction, but I want to translate in the Y direction using 0.4 rem value. And that value is here. I'm referring from here so that when I click on it, see that it's going down. But at the same time, I want to remove that box shadow also. So let's make it none. So that way you'll get that click effect, right? So you're learning how to create beautiful buttons also, right? Through this project. That's where, I always say like practically doing things is really important. Okay, so winners never quit and quitters never win. And coders always code. That is really important. You need to change your identity. If you want to become a good developer, you should code, and you should code every day. So these are our buttons. I think this is also looking good. And we're going to make it responsive also. So now if I inspect, right, and if I make it small, right, that way I want to have my codes and everything to be responsive, right? And that we will do at the end. So or maybe I'll just write some CSS for it, at least maybe here. If you see here, right, it's sticking to the browser edges, right? I want to have some spacing here. So let's write some media queries for that. So for that, I'm going to use media, screen, and probably what is the syntax? I don't remember. I always copy and paste. And this is max width. And I'll go with 1000 pixel. So max width 1000 means once the screen size is less than 1000 pixel, these media queries are going to get triggered. And I want to change, I'll add some margin in my code container. Okay, so let's give it a margin auto on the top and bottom. I don't want to have any margin on top bottom, but on the left and right hand side, I'll go with 1 rem value. So now if we go here, see that we got that spacing. If you need to add more spacing, maybe you can go with 2 rem also. Okay, now if you come here, that media query is not getting applied, but if we come here, that media query is getting applied. For smaller devices also, you can do you can change the font size and you can do all those changes, but I think this is looking better. I'm going to close it. Okay, cool. So I think we are mostly done with the CSS part. The HTML is done, the CSS is done. Now the most important thing, that is when I click on this new code button, I want to see the new code here. When I click on this slide show button, I want to have have the quotes, changed like in 3 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever value. So let's do that. Let's add some action, some dynamism to our quote generator application in the next part of the videos. I would suggest to have a quick pause, come back, and then we'll start writing the JavaScript for our application. Welcome back. Time to write some JavaScript now. So I have already created the index.js file here, which has been included in the HTML file here. So let's get going, and we are going to write some JavaScript now. We are going to add some functionality to our quote generator. So if I go back to my quote generator application, right? So what I want to do, first of all, I'm going to focus on this new code button. So if you click on this new code button, it's going to generate a new code here. So right now that's not happening, right? Along with the author. And then we will implement the functionality of this slideshow, where the quotes will be coming in some like some time frame, like maybe in 3 seconds, 5 seconds, something like that. So first of all, we need to grab the elements. So I need to grab so many elements, I know. So let's start grabbing some elements at the top. So I'll keep the HTML file open. First of all, I'm going to grab this code container because I will need it, and I know why I will need it. So const code container. So this is what, and just will use the same name, and I'm going to use document.query selector. So document.query selector. So to grab the HTML elements using JavaScript, there are multiple functions, right? So there is a document.getElement by ID, using which you can target the element by its ID. But the most popular way, nowadays is we use query selector, and there is another method called query selector all also. So query selector is like, you're querying the DOM and you're asking, okay, give me document, give me the element with this particular class name. So I'm asking my document, give me element with this class name. So this section has this class name, right? So it's going to return me this section. And if you say query selector all, there's another method. So that will bring you, so this query selector will bring only one element with this class name, the first one. But if I ask with query selector all, it's going to return me all the elements for having the class name of code container. So there is a possibility, right? There can be multiple elements having the same class name. So it's going to return all those elements. So that's a quick refresher on the accessing DOM. So I'm going to just copy and paste this line, okay? Just to save time, because I don't want to repeat that. Next, I'm going to grab the, I think we need to target this span also, right? This code text. This is what I'm going to change. So let's grab that. So I'll paste it here. This I'll paste it here, and just will change the name to code text. Next, again, I'm going to do the copy and paste of this line. Next, I will need the author name, right? This author text. So let's grab that too. Author text, and let's use the camel case naming convention, right? Next, I'll need another element. Let's grab it. See, I'm not copying and pasting it, and I haven't kept entire JavaScript code available. Some of the code snippet definitely I'm going to grab, but I want you to write the code with me. So once again, I'm saying, like, pause the video and keep coding with me. That's how you're going to be good in JavaScript. So the next element, okay, we need to target these buttons also, right? So this slideshow button and the new code button. So let's do that. I need slideshow button, and this is how the next one will be our new code button, right? So I'm going to grab that one too, here and here. So I'll just convert it into a camel case. So variable name should be also self-explanatory. You just read it and understand what is the meaning of this particular variable. so that you don't need to comment your code, right? So slide show button, new code button, right? Okay, so the first thing that I'm planning to do, first of all, we need to fetch the codes, right? So how we are going to fetch the codes? So whenever we are going to load the application, right? So I want to have the codes already loaded into the memory, right? Into the browser memory. That's the idea, right? So I'm going to write a function called fetch codes. And let's make it an arrow function. Now this will be, okay. So I'm going to call this function directly here. So whenever I'm going to load my application, I'm going to fetch the codes first. And here we are going to we are going to fetch the codes from the third party site, or third party server, or an application or an API. So it can be written in any language. So maybe on Google you can search for the free codes API, something like that, codes API, and you'll get a lot of options. You can visit this site, you can visit this site. There are so many different options available to us. Then this is Zen codes. The one which I'm planning to use for now is I think I need to find Quotable. So there is something called Quotable Codes API. So let me type that, Quotable Codes API, and let's see if this is that URL. Okay, I think this one. Yes, this one I need to use. So this is more of a basic code machine, right? So it's going to return me some of the codes, and this is how the response is going to come. We're going to have ID, content, author slug, length, tag, something like that. So let's try this in the browser. See, this is how we are going to get the code. So this is for the random, but there is a URL for returning, different codes. So I know that URL, that is codes. See that. So I'm going to get back this response. I'm going to hit this URL. This is the REST API, which I'm going to hit, and I'm going to get the results. And these results are nothing but the code objects. Codes object. Okay, so we are interested in author and content mostly. I don't think so we are interested in ID, length. Probably we can use the length also, but still I think and date, edit, date, modified, I don't think so we need that. So this is the URL we are going to hit actually. So let's copy this URL, and this other way in the second part of this video. This is first part where I'm hitting the API and loading the codes. What if tomorrow when you're watching this video, right, this API is not working? There is a possibility. Sometimes this API goes down, and maybe the author of the API, they have taken it down. I want the application to work anyway. So we are going to have some local codes inside your project, which you can load using the same thing. Like we are going to use a fetch. Okay. So to load some data using JavaScript from the server, we use something called fetch. So fetch is a function in JavaScript which we use to load the data from the server side. So for that, I need the URL. So I'll go with some good style of writing code. So I'm going to have the URL and I'm going to paste that URL here. So this is the URL which I'm going to hit using my fetch. Now fetch is a asynchronous operation. Now what is the meaning of asynchronous operation? That means, when I'm hitting some from my from my browser, I'm hitting some server, right? So it's like, ordering a pizza. So when you order pizza, you don't get the pizza directly, right? It takes some time, maybe 20-30 minutes to deliver. Similarly, here I'm asking for the codes to this API. Now this API is going to take some time, not 30 minutes, but maybe like 1 second, 2 seconds, or a half second, something like that. So that such kind of operation is known as a asynchronous operation. So for that, we use something called await. So until I got the data, right? Until I have the data. So this is going to, I'm going to fetch codes from this URL. So it's going to send the call to this URL until the data is loaded, right? I'm going to wait. And once I have the data, I'm going to store it into something called a response. object. Okay, now when you use await inside any function, you need to convert the function into an async function, the outer function. Okay, that's the rule. So this is how we use the async await syntax. So what is going to happen here? I'm going to say fetch some codes from this URL. Once I have the data, now that data will be in the format, will be just a text format. Basically, you're going to get back the text. Now we need to convert that text into a JSON object, because that's how we are going to manage it using JavaScript, right? So we are going to get a response, right? And I'm going to convert that response into a JSON object. But this is again an asynchronous operation. So there is a possibility it's going to take some time. So that's why we will put await again. And whatever we are going to get back, we're going to store it into result. Okay, something like result. Now let's see what is the result we are getting. So first of all, we are going to console.log result. And let's see what we are getting inside the result. So I'm fetching the codes, right? Now I'll go back. And I'll go back to my application, inspect. And now if I go to console, I need to refresh once again. See that? We're getting the same data back. If you see count 20, then all those things here, we are getting results. So that 20 different codes, the array I'm getting. Okay. So this is the object and I'm interested inside the result property here, or attribute, right? So let's target that. So I'm going to say, now I'm going to create one variable outside, because I want my codes to be available throughout the, it should be global. Okay, so I'm going to just make an array, quotes array. And now instead of this, result dot results, so I'm going to say quotes is equals to result dot results. Okay, and just for the sake of confirmation, I'm going to just log quotes again. And now if I go back, assignment to constant variable, I need to convert this to let. Okay, so we got the quotes, right? So we got a quote and we are interested in author and content, right? Mostly, and there are some tags also. Remember what is the category of that particular quote. Okay, so I think we got the quote, but it's a good idea, to add this code into a try catch block. The reason is there is a possibility when we are fetching all of this data, we might get an error. So let's put it into a try catch block, and I'm going to handle it using the catch. And the catch is going to return us an error, which I'm going to just console.log for now. Maybe you can alert this particular error, or maybe if you have some way of showing the pop-ups, and where you're displaying all your errors, you can use that particular style of showing the errors also. I'm not covering that part. Maybe I'll have a separate video on that. But let's focus on the quotes, right? So we are getting the quotes. We are storing inside our quotes variable, right? Now somehow what I need to do, right? I want to show the first quote from the quotes which are getting loaded here and getting stored inside the quotes array. I want to show. So for that, I'm going to write a new function called new quote. So just call a new quote function, and this new quote function is going to generate. It's going to bring us a quote here, and we want to generate the random quote. Actually, that's the idea, right? I don't want to show the first quote only. I want to generate random quotes. Okay, also we are getting 20 quotes maybe, and out of those 20 quotes, we will show some random quotes here. So when I click on the new quote button also, I want to generate those random quotes. So let's write this function new quote, and we'll say console.log. No, I want to console.log. I need to write that function actually. New quote function. And okay, so first of all, inside my new quote function, I want to have that random number. So const num, maybe a run num, and I need to write a random function which will give me the random number between 0 to 19 basically. Okay, so most of the time what we do basically, Either you can remember how to generate a random number, write it by yourself, or sometimes it's a good idea to search it on Google. So JavaScript, this is how we write code in the organization, generate random number, and you'll get so many options like this W3 school, or maybe you can use this example, right? So there are a lot of great examples which you can use. Maybe you can use this one which was on W3 school, right? So just copy this one and paste it there. I have a very good one liner for generating a random number, which I'm just going to copy and paste here. And later on, you can just understand that. So I'm just going to paste that function here. And this can be a part of util also, right? Maybe we can move it to utils file, but I'm going to keep it here just to make it simple. So this is simple one liner, which we are going to provide the mean number and a max number, and it's going to generate the random number within that range. Okay, so I'm going to call that for this function random, and we know we need to generate a random number between 0 and 19 because we are getting 20 quotes only here. If you go back, we are getting only 20 quotes from this API. See, the result count is 20. So that's the idea. So I'll get the number. We can try this, okay? Console.log, and let's see how we are getting this number. So each time I'm going to hit that API, we're going to get, I got 17. If I refresh again, I got 4, 14, 5, 10, 5, 16. So we are getting in the range of 0 to 19. And you can test it actually. So we have the random number, right? Now, somehow I need to generate that quote, right? So I want to have a quote. So I'm going to create a new const variable here, which I'm going to call quote. And I'm going to use quotes and this number as our index. Or maybe let's call it index. That would be a good idea. That should be a good idea, basically. Okay, so quote we are getting. Now I want to render this quote in my UI with the quote text and the author text. How can we do that? So I'm going to write a function for that. It's always a good idea, to separate or break down your code into simple small functions. And this render, I'm just going to pass this quote object. And render will take care of, rendering the code for me. I'm going to write that function just above this, const render. This will be an arrow function I'm using just to have a consistency. I'm using arrow functions everywhere. You can use normal function also, normal JavaScript function. Now it is going to get the quote object, right? I'll show you something. Okay, so let's have a quote only here, and I'm going to log the quote, whatever quote I'm getting. So console.log quote, save. Now if you go back, see, we are getting the one single random quote, and we are interested only in the content and the author. Rest of the things doesn't matter. Rest of the things do not matter to us, right? We are interested in author and content. That's it. So to grab the author and content from this mini object and with the code object, we're going to use the JavaScript destructuring syntax. So you're learning new things, right? If you don't know what is destructuring, so you can take the object and you can grab the properties from it. This is how. So I'm interested in author, right? So I'm going to grab the author and I'm interested in content. So these two properties only, author and content. And we can just have a log of it, author and content. Let's see what we are getting. See that? So Dan Gabel, gold medals aren't. So we are getting the quote and this is our author name. Now I have all my elements, right? HTML elements. So I'm going to target, take the quote text from here, quote text dot text content. So what I'm doing basically, I'm grabbing my span element, and this is the text content which I'm going to replace with my dynamic data, which is coming from the server. So text content is equals to content. So that way I'm going to get that random quote. And the other one is we need to target the author text, right? So author text dot text content is equals to author. Now I don't need this console.log, and you should be able to see the code which is coming from the server. Sports do not build character, they reveal it. I'm going to refresh. It's just job, grass grow, birds fly, waves pond, sand, right? Again, see that. You're getting, every time you're getting a new code, right? Every time you're getting, and the problem is, I'm seeing that old code also. So instead of showing this, I'm just going to remove it. So that we'll have the empty author and this text, so that I won't be able to see that code and then the other another code, because it is taking some time, for loading that particular code from the server. See that? And there is a problem, right? When I'm refreshing here, if you see that, right, for some time, maybe for a fraction of second, it's shrinking and then it's expanding. So for that, we are going to put a loader. Okay, so don't worry, we're going to put a loader. Now we need to make this button functional, right? When I click on the new code button, I want to generate the new code. How can we do that? So let's target our new code button, right? So we have a new code button here. I'm going to put all my event listeners at the end. Okay. So that's the idea. Dot add event. Okay. So button has events. So button has a click event. So if you want to listen for all those events, we use something called the element, that, like in our case, it's a button. And there's a function called add event listener function in JavaScript. The first argument is the name of the event, and the second argument is a function which I want to call. So here I'm going to call the new code, right? Because every time I'm going to click on the new code button, I want to generate a new code. And you don't need to call that function something like this. You just need to write that function, refer that function here, and when I'm going to click, JavaScript behind the scene is going to call this function. Now let's test this functionality. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to click on new code. See that? We're getting all the new codes generated by clicking on my beautiful new code button. This is looking awesome, right? So I think we are doing good, right? I think I have recorded mostly for 20 minutes now. So I would suggest to have a quick pause here, come back, and then we are going to have that loader functionality, right? This is shrinking and coming, right? So until we have the data from the server side, we're going to show a loader. And once we have the data from the API, we're going to remove that loader and we're going to show our code container. Quick pause, come back, and we will implement the loader. Welcome back. So now let's implement the loader functionality, right? So when I'm loading the data from the server side, it is taking some time. That's why, we're not able to see the code for maybe a fraction of a second. So again, we are going to leverage the open source education, right? So I'm going to search for CSS loader online. So let's do that, CSS loader, and you're going to get so many results, right? So you have an NPM package. You can use this Webpack. I'm going to leverage this one, right? How to make a loader from the W3 school. So I'm going to open this link and you see this, right? So this is a really nice, beautiful loader. If you see here, right? And this is nothing but what I'm going to copy and paste. And then I'm going to use inside my code. Okay. So I'm going to grab this loader, this div from here, and I'm just going to paste it here. And just for the sake of, semantic way, we were using sections, I'm going to put this loader also inside a section. Okay, so I'll keep the class name as section only. And the next thing is obviously copy and paste this CSS. So just open the CSS file, and inside my CSS file, I'm just going to put my loader related code, something like this. Okay, so I'm going to save it. And if you want to understand, so maybe border top, border radius 50%, width, height, because of it is spinning. And this keyframe is nothing but, doing the magic of that rotation. It's basically rotating this border from 0 to 100%, from 0 degree to 360 degree, and it is keep looping. That's why particular kind of loader effect there. So now if I save this, if I go back and save this, you should be able to see the loader. See that? And I don't know why it is coming like this. So maybe we'll see how to fix it. So I have a loader, then I have a div with a loader. It's not looking like this, but anyways. Okay, so when I'm loading the data, right? So when I'm loading the data, at the time I want to show the loader. And once the data is loaded, I want to remove the loader. So first of all, you know what is going to happen if I go to my JavaScript, we are going to fetch the codes, right? So we are sending this call. So this is the place before I just send the call here, right? Maybe here, just before the fetch, we can show the loader, right? Maybe I can write a function, what we can say, show loader, something like that. Maybe I can refer actually. So we'll call it fetching codes basically. That's a good idea. Fetching codes. Okay, so this is a function. And once I have fetched all the codes, right? So just here, when we are generating the new codes, we'll say fetch or fetching. We can use fetching codes success, something like that. You can write show loader, hide loader. That is also you can give that function name also. I'm going to use fetching code success. So let's write these two functions. Just maybe we can write it here, const. So here, when I'm fetching the codes, I'm going to hide my container. That's why, you know, I have grabbed that container. So I'm going to take this, and there's something called visibility. If I remember the property, I think that's hidden. So hidden is equals to true. So I'm going to hide my code container, but I want to show my loader. So first of all, I need to grab that loader, right? So I need to grab this section. So let's copy and paste. This is a loader. And loader. Okay, so I want to show my loader, and I want to hide dot hidden is equals to true, is equals to false. Okay, so I'm going to hide my codes container. I'm going to show my loader. And once the loading has been completed, once it has been loaded, the data has been loaded successfully, I'm going to reverse whatever I have written here. So const, and I'm just going to grab it, paste it here. So this will be false, hidden false, and this hidden will be true. I'm going to hide the loader. Now if I save and go back to my application, okay, let's refresh. See that? The loader is coming until the data is not there, right? Even if I click on new code, now the data is already loaded. That's why new code is working fine. You can see, right? We can leverage the open source education. This is what I call open source education, because a lot of things are already available. You don't need to write it from scratch. And if you don't understand how they have written it, you can search for the animation. Just go and search CSS animation, all such kind of keyword on Google, and you can learn about it. Maybe from the W3 school. That is a good resource. Okay, so our loader is ready. I can click on that. I can refresh, and loader is coming. The is coming. Everything looks good. Now the next functionality that which I want to implement is this slideshow button, right? So let's do that. Let's implement the slideshow functionality. So I'm going to grab that button, slideshow button, and my event listeners are just at the end. Add event listener. So on that button now, I want to call. So I'm going to write a function, okay? Start slide show, something like that. So this is a function. Okay, so that maybe I can write just here, const start slideshow. Okay, now what is the idea? Like when I click on this button, I want to generate the codes with some time lapse, maybe like 3 seconds, 5 seconds, something like that. So basically what I want to do, basically I want to call new code only, right? So new code is a function which is always generating a new code for our application, right? So I want to call this new code in some interval, some time interval, right? So for that we can leverage the JavaScript. There is a function called set interval which we can use, and I can call a function. I can call a function at particular time, maybe like 3000 milliseconds, means 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, I can call a function which will generate the new code. And we know like, what is that function? That's a new code function. So I can say new code. I'm just going to call the new code and it's going to show me the code after every 3 seconds. But the thing is, right, somewhere I need to stop this also, right? So maybe like if I click on this new code button, I want to stop the slideshow, right? So for that purpose, we're going to use the clear interval function. Now set interval is going to set the interval. It is going to call this function and generate a new code after 3 seconds every time. So it's going to return me an ID, that interval ID, okay, which I can clear. So I'm going to save that interval ID here. So let quote interval, something like that. I'll call it quote interval. And initially it's going to have a null value. Now I'm going to grab this variable and I'll set it here. So set interval returns that ID. Okay, for this particular function or this particular callback function, this is the ID. And if you want to clear it, you can clear it whenever you want. And I'm going to clear this when I'm clicking on the new code button, right? So on click of a new code button, I'm calling the new code function, right? So I need to wrap this into a function call, something like this. Okay, so I'll show you. So we'll call the new code function and we'll have something like this. I'll put it on the next line. Okay, so we'll call the new code function, but we are going to clear the interval also. So clear the interval and I'll use the quote interval variable. That's it. We're going to call the new code function. So now if I go back, so new code is working fine. If you see here, right, I'm able to generate a new code. Okay. But now I'm going to click on my slideshow button. So what it is going to do, it's going to show me the code after 3 seconds. So every 3 seconds you see here, right? I don't need to click on new code button. It's generating a new code for me. It's like a automated way of showing the code, right? And now if I click on the new code button, it's going to stop that interval. So now I think the 3 seconds are over, but the code is not changing. See that? So this is how we can build functionalities in JavaScript, the beautiful functionalities in JavaScript. Okay. So I think this is looking good. And quickly, the last thing which I want to cover, I think the application is almost finished, but as I said, previously, API is not working, right? What if this API is not working and you want to have your code somewhere in the local, which you want to run using the same kind of approach, right? Using the fetch syntax. I'm going to show you really nice way of doing that. We have something called, again, open source education. So you just go and search for something called JSON server. And this is really good NPM library which we can use. Similarly, like how we hit the API on the server side, we're going to build the local server, something like that. And we are going to build the local data and we are going to grab that data. So I'm going to install it. Okay. So you need to install, first of all, you need to install the JSON server, and then we are going to create our own database of codes. So for that, obviously I need to go into terminal. So I'll go into my code generator, right? This project, and let's open a new terminal at this folder. And first of all, I'm going to say npm init. So I need to generate the package.json file by using the default option here. Okay. So say yes, and it's going to generate a package. If you go back here, see that you got a package.json file. Okay. Now I'm going to install not global, but inside my project. So I'll say dash dash save dev, because this is just a dev dependency. So I'm going to install my JSON server. Okay. So after the installation, you're going to have modules folder, right? Now I'm going to grab all those codes from here. Where are those codes? Okay. So I'm interested in the raw version, right? So I'm just going to copy entire thing and I'll paste it here. So I'm going to create a new file called codes.json. Okay. Codes.json. So I have the local codes also now. I don't remember exactly if I'm going to split it. Okay, anyways. Line break I was looking for, maybe. Okay, so I don't want to have the count, total count, page, total pages, and all these things. I just want to have the results. That's it. That's it. I need all of these things only. So now I have the course.json. I have my JSON server installed. Now open the package.json file and how to run the server, right? To run the server, we're going to refer the documentation here. So this is how you're going to run the server. JSON server watch db.json. But we are going to change that name from db.json to course.json. So I'm going to write serve. So I'm going to create a new command here and I'm going to paste that. Just JSON server watch, and we're going to watch codes.json, right? Because our file name is codes.json, not db.json. That's it. So now instead of hitting, I'm going to run it first. Okay. So we'll say npm serve and okay, sorry, npm run serve. And you see that, right? It's saying that the resources are coming from here. Now I'm going to hit this URL, okay? And you should be able to see the data. Localhost 3000 not coming. Why? Is there something running on localhost 3000? Okay, there's some problem. I'm not getting the results. Maybe I'll try with this. Okay, there's something running on localhost 3000. I can see that. So let me just see inside my terminal. I think I have something running here. Okay, I'm going to stop it. Okay. So there was another application which I was working, right? So that is running. So now I'm going to refresh. See that now it is coming to JSON server, but we are interested in results. See that? We're getting all the codes. And they are coming from our local host, your own machine, right? You don't need to hit that API. Now we're going to replace some of the code. I'm just going to replace my URLs. I'm going to keep the old code also for you and just going to replace with the new one, right? So that you will have the old code also. So now URL will be this, right? /results. So we're going to grab the results from our local machine and that's it. I think that will return the response to me, but obviously we are not going result.results, right? That's not the way. So I need to change this also to quotes is equals to probably I'll just say the result, something like that. And let's see if it works. Now I'm going to refresh, go back to my application. See that? You can put a limit. We are able to generate a new code, right? You can click on the slideshow and it's working perfectly fine, right? I'm building a fire, right? So we're getting the new code also and the timer. So now the codes are coming from your local host. But if you want to grab it from this URL, we just need to change it, right? Oh, sorry. Just remove this, comment this one, right? And you can remove this and comment this one. That's it. And you will be hitting the server. See that? The loader is coming. We are getting the new code. Beautiful, right? So multiple ways of doing things, right? So you can either hit the third party URL, you can use your own localhost URL also to show the code. Okay, so I think this is a long journey, maybe more than 1 hour of video, probably. I need to check while editing. So, but you learn. I hope you have learned good amount of JavaScript. This is a beginner project, but I'm going to bring many beginner project. Because out of this beginner projects only, you're going to make the intermediate and then the advanced project, right? So this beginner knowledge is really important, and we have written some kind of industry level code. Maybe I'll come up with a big project. We are going to take all of the small code only and we'll build up on that for the bigger projects. So I hope this will help you. You're happy with whatever you have created by yourself. So you can share the feedback in the comment about this application, and probably if I have something to say, I'll definitely reply to those comments. With that, I'm going to stop here. I'll see you in the next JavaScript project. I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited to come up with more JavaScript projects, small, mid, intermediate, even advanced. But I started with beginner projects first. So I'm going to see you in the next video. Until then, I think you take care. Goodbye. And thanks for watching the video.